Your cat's still here, by the way. According to Futaba, he isn't thrilled with the idea of hitchhiking back to your place either. She suggested that we take him back ourselves. All of us.
He tapped out Ash, kept his voice gruff.
That sound okay with you?
Huh? Yeah, I'd have to run it by my folks, but yeah, that sounds good. Sojiro grinned. But I think it has to wait until after Akechi's trial.
The grin left. Is that so?
Wouldn't want it hanging over my head is all. Hey, have you heard anything about how it's going so far? I know you've got old friends in the government and the police and stuff, and the media's kept a pretty tight lid on things. I'm curious.
You gonna try and influence the verdict somehow?
Akira made a sort of discomfited grunt, and Sojiro ground out a cigarette on one of the machines, feeling a pang of bitter triumph. The kid was usually so opaque that it was an achievement to actually suss out what he was thinking. It's not what you think.
I sure as hell hope not. I heard he helped you out a lot during whatever you were doing, but since he tried to kill you too, that's pretty much just balancing the books. And it doesn't wipe clean all the other evil shit he did.
I know that.
Let the wheels turn, Akira. Justice has to be served.
Akira barked laughter at that, and Sojiro's eyes widened. You know, one of the things I couldn't stand about him was how he kept going on about justice. It was like some kind of tick.
Probably didn't help that he wasn't a fan of the justice you kids were dishing out either.
That's the thing. He kept trying to guess what my definition of justice was, too. It drove me crazy. What the hell is justice supposed to be, anyway? Courts and trials and prison sentences? The stuff society approves of? I don't care about any of that. It never did anything for me.
Maybe. What's your alternative, then?
I don't know. I'm still putting it together. He sounded vehement, almost cornered. Everyone just goes on about rehabilitation, like if you just shove someone in a cell for a few years, they'll come out all clean and ready to take on the world. But that's not how it works, right? Everyone just forgets about them. There's too many people, and they all want to forget, and they keep shoving everyone in holes so they can ignore them. We can't ever totally rehabilitate ourselves. We're always making mistakes and trying to make up for them. I think that's how we move forward now. We need as many chances as we can get to change. That's all I want. For people to have chances. People just need to do what they think is right. And try not to hurt anyone. He stopped and laughed again, a little sheepishly. This all sounded a lot cooler in my head.
I bet, said Sojiro. People speak a different language inside.
And I know it's not as simple as it sounds. But that's what I'm doing, Mr. Sakura. I'm doing what I think is right. And believe me, I'm really, really trying not to hurt anyone. Mr. Sakura. That's what Akira had called him in the early days, before Sojiro had started insisting on boss. He remembered how the kid had looked when he'd first taken in the attic loft that would become his bedroom. Full of clutter, patinate with dust. Until that point, his expression had been inscrutable, but in that moment, he'd looked like someone standing on a high ledge in a strong wind. Sojiro had felt a tinge of satisfaction at the sight. Finally, he thought, the consequences are sinking in. He still hated himself for thinking that sometimes. Fast forward to now. The kid had stepped away from that ledge and somehow established a web of contacts through the whole of Tokyo. People who would happily light themselves on fire for him. Even now, Sojiro felt those strands tighten. He wondered, not for the first time, how different the world might be if everyone had that kind of determination. With his free hand, he deftly extracted another cigarette, stuck it in his mouth, and lit up. Akira waited patiently on the line.
"Alright," he said around the smoke. "As it happens, I have been keeping my ear to the ground on this, and I've heard a couple things you might find useful. But Akira, I'll make this clear now. Whatever you're planning to do, whatever he does will be entirely on your head. If the police somehow get wind of this crap and come to me again, I won't protect you. Do you understand me?"
"No cops. Got it." He snorted.
"God, you're such a smartass."
"My ass is no smarter than your ass," he said serenely. "So what did you hear?"
"It's about a couple of mutual acquaintances of ours. One friendly, the other less so."
"Tell me." The drumming of rain on the laundry roof became deafening. Drops forced their way through the boards and dribbled cold on Sojiro's shoulders as he talked. The weather in the cigarette cloaked him, pushing his face and voice deep into this little forgotten corner of the world, and by the time he stopped and left, the downpour had ended and left the city shining with wet as if wrapped in plastic. Everything, at least for the moment, washed clean. Patients report no lingering symptoms from the illness save those caused by short to medium-term loss of consciousness, such as stiffness, weakness in the muscles, and disorientation. Most symptoms have cleared up within several days, though medical professionals advise all discharged patients to seek medical attention immediately if they recur. The Ministry of Health, Labour and Welfare also emphasized that, despite its sudden dissipation, many cases of paranoia syndrome have not been so benign. Several unconscious patients who may have been suffering from the disease died from cardiac arrest in the intervening weeks between paranoia syndrome's occurrence and disappearance, and investigations are still ongoing. Others have reported minor audio and visual hallucinations and remain under hospital care. So there were several who actually died. Holy shit. In particular, an anonymous source at St. Luke's Hospital reported an incident in the intensive care ward concerning one of Japan's earliest paranoia syndrome patients, an adolescent male who, according to the nursing staff, woke up in a state of what the source described as hysterical distress. Allegedly, the patient confessed to nurses on the scene that he had been responsible for the paranoia syndrome outbreak, and showed disquieting knowledge of the sickness symptoms and breadth of effect, despite being among the first afflicted. When asked for comment, several neurologists could not offer a full explanation for this behavior, though they did cite it as evidence that the comas displayed by paranoia syndrome patients may not have been typical, saying that the patient may have subconsciously obtained information about the sickness from news broadcasts playing in his or adjacent rooms. The patient himself showed no physical abnormalities and has since been placed in psychiatric care. The Tokyo police have stated that he is not under any investigation for the crime, and they do not intend to follow up on these claims. The patient's parents declined to comment on this alleged incident, stating that they were just happy that their son could return home. In related news, the mental shutdown and psychotic breakdown incidents, which similarly rocked Tokyo in previous years, may have found a culprit in Goro Akechi, who still awaits trial for click. Give us a court date already! Heard they're gonna televise it. I'm taking off work. My niece wound up in the hospital because of that subway crash. I hope he hangs. Comment deleted by moderator. Catchy. 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 That prick Shida was the mastermind behind all this. Why the hell are they throwing Goro to the wolves? Because Goro was Shida's willing accomplice? Maybe? So wait, does that mean all the cases he solved were fake? JFC. KFC. Kentucky Fried Chicken. Or is it, I'm not gonna say. Someone should ask about that other kid detective what he thinks of this. He? She? Fuck, I forgot. Naoto Shirogane. Deleted, deleted. More Akechi, shilling, deleted. Friendship ended with paranoia syndrome. Now Goro Akechi's execution is my best friend. That meme? Oh my god, Hasotobi, you were hilarious. You people are sick. Enough, Akechi shilling, just end already! A featureless concrete cell, a single table, a bare light bulb buzzing overhead. Light bulb buzzing overhead. Once upon a time, he'd shot what he thought to be Akira Kurusu dead here. Watched his blood and brain paint an abstract pattern on the tabletop. Now he sat in Akira's old chair, hands in his lap, hair in his eyes, and emaciated sculpture in his prison fatigues. I think now would be a good time for me to leave this as a cliffhanger for next weekend. Since next weekend, the day after next weekend when this video comes out, it's going to be my birthday on the Monday after next week. 29th of November. 24 years old. What a life so far, eh? Anyways, I'll see you guys next time, and we'll continue on from this paragraph. Ciao!